Hey everybody, it's Steve Lowell here. Welcome back again to our session today. As you probably know, we are multi-streaming. We're streaming right now on LinkedIn, we're streaming on Facebook, and we're streaming on YouTube, and we're so happy to have you with us. And I like to come on a few minutes early just to give people a chance to get notified and to come on board and to join us. And today we're going to be talking about how do you break through to that next level in your business without spending another dime on marketing? And I know that so many of us as coaches and experts and thought leaders and consultants and speakers, oftentimes we'll spend a lot of money promoting our business, doing different things. And I know that when we shifted from live events pre-COVID, and we had to do that pivot to go virtual, we had invested an enormous amount in our marketing and our branding, and we continue to do these things over time. But what we found is that most of the success that we've achieved happened without a website, without business cards, without marketing, without ads, without really spending any money on marketing or promotion. Now, I want to make this clear as we go through this program today. I'm not saying you shouldn't spend money on marketing and promotion. There is a space for that, and there is time to do that, and there's a proper way to do that. But what I'm saying is this, that you don't have to spend an enormous amount of money on marketing to be able to break through to a different level. You don't actually have to spend any money on marketing or promotion to break through to a different level. And today I want to share with you a system that we used to take our business global, all over the world, and to breach that, seven-figure barrier, and how we did it without spending money on marketing or advertising. And you can do everything that I'm going to share with you today, and it's all part of a much bigger system. So, when you're a consultant or a coach, and you're helping people, over time, or you're a speaker, you create products and services as you go, right? So your clients might come in and they'll say, well, I have this problem. And so you create something for it, and now you've got something to sell. And then other clients will come up and they'll say, well, I have this problem. And so you create something, and now you've got something else to sell. And you've got all of these things that become a library or a resource vault for you. And you can sell them one at a time, or you can package them and bundle them. Well, we've done the same. And over many years, I have accumulated all kinds of different pieces, different tools that I've developed. And we marketed them one at a time, and we marketed them in bundles. And most of these things were developed because either we had a problem that needed solving, or clients would come to us and they would say, well, can you help me with this? And we would say yes, and we create something. So we've got the high impact keynote template. We've got the 60-second miracle positioning statement. We got the 3 circles of speaking energy. We have the story, 1-minute story template. We've got the sales conversation flow. We've got all of these different pieces, all individual pieces that we've created over many years. But the reality is that each of those pieces is a part of a much bigger process. And so what I'm going to share with you today is just one piece of this much bigger process. And what we've done is we've taken all of those different pieces that we've created over the years, we've put them all together, and we call it the perfect sales system. And the reason we call it that is because this is what we've been using for years. And of course, a lot of it we didn't know we were using at the time. It was sort of just how we do things. But now we've systemized it. We've got all these different pieces. We put them together into what we call the perfect sales system because it's been perfect for us. And so what I want to share with you today is just a very small piece of the perfect sales system. And it's about how do you breach that barrier that's holding you back, whatever that barrier is. Maybe it's an income barrier. Maybe it's a business barrier, you need more clients in the pipeline, or maybe it's an expansion barrier where you just can't seem to expand or scale to the level that you want to scale. So many entrepreneurs, coaches, speakers, consultants, authors, experts, thought leaders, we hit that barrier, that ceiling, whatever you want to call that. and we try to buy our way through it with more marketing and more advertising and more branding and all of these things. But I want to show you how you can breach that barrier without investing a lot in those things. Now, it's kind of interesting that I'm talking to you about this because we are actually going through a rebranding as we speak. We've gone through some rebranding, but we had to do that when COVID hit, because when we were, traveling the world doing live events and earning our living that way, live events, live training events, speaking around the world, when COVID hit, of course, all of that stopped. So we had to change and go online like everybody else, which we've done, and we've made some branding changes. So the brand is always evolving into a specific destination that we have in mind. That's not what I'm talking about, though. I'm not talking about spending money on branding in order to further your brand. I'm talking about if you've hit a barrier and you just can't seem to breach that barrier, here is a way that works. It's how we've done it. It's how we continue to do it. And I'm going to show it to you right now. So it all starts, and if you've been in any of our programs before, you'll understand what the Repumeter is. And everything that we do is based on that concept of the Repumeter. And if you haven't seen us before, I'm going to give you a very quick overview of it, because it forms the foundation of what we're going to talk about today. So let me just get my flip chart real quick. And if you've seen this before, and I know many of you have, it'll be review for you. If this is your first time, then this might give you a different perspective on how you might move forward in your business. So basically, it starts with this concept called the Repumeter. The Repumeter is a tool that measures the state of your reputation in terms of how your market sees you out there. And it's very important to understand this concept when we talk about breaching that barrier, or breaking through whatever it is, that ceiling that's holding you back. So the Repumeter looks like this. There are 4 different states to your reputation in terms of how people perceive you in comparison to your competitors. So the first state is what I call obscurity. And obscurity means that people generally don't really know who you are. They don't really know what you do. And so it's a struggle to generate business. The second state is what I call competitive. Now, competitive means that your market generally knows who you are and what you do, but there's nothing really that separates you from everybody else who does what you do. You kind of look the same. And even though you know you're different in your mind, the challenge is that they don't know you're different. I got to tell you, I went through that for years and years and years, where I kept thinking to myself, but I'm different. Why can't you see that I'm different? And I just couldn't get them to see that I was different until we did some things. And I'm going to share some of those with you. And then the third spot on the Repumeter is what I call branded. Now, branded means that your market, they know who you are, they have an idea of what you do, and there's something a little bit different about you. You've raised some eyebrows, you've gotten some attention, and your name just sort of starts to float to the top a little bit. And then there's this spot over here where we should all be striving to be, and we call that V1, where you are the only logical choice in your field. Now, that was a very, very quick overview of the concept of the Repumeter. There's a whole lot more to it, but for today, here's what we need to know. This spot right here at branded is where something really important starts to happen. A lot of things change at branded if you can get to that spot. And there's some danger of being there. The danger is that if you do some things incorrectly, or if you miss some things, your reputation can fall all the way back down. But for today, this is what we need to know. On this side of branded, if you feel like you're in obscurity, or if you're competitive, where you're always trying to become visible and you're always trying to get noticed, or you're always giving discounts to entice people to hire you, or you always seem to be compared to other people who do what you do, that means you're over here. And here's the thing, when you're operating over here, your name becomes attached to what I call your title, which means you're known as a something or an something. So you're a coach, you're a trainer, you're a speaker, you're a financial advisor, you're a human resources expert, you're a consultant, you're a something or an something. And that's what keeps you locked over here in this competitive state, right? But at branded, if you can breach this line And this is what I'm going to talk to you about in a moment. If you can breach this line, here's what happens. Your name starts to become associated with something else. And this is what your name becomes associated with. Your name starts to become associated with the results that you provide, which means your clients, when they get great results as a result of working with you, they're going to talk about those results, and your name gets attached in people's minds to the great results that you provide. The next thing that your name gets attached to is the experience that you provide. Now, I'm not talking about your number of years in the business. I'm not talking about that experience. I'm talking about the experience that your clients have when they work with you. And so I want you to be thinking about, what kind of results are you delivering to your clients? What kind of experience are you providing your clients? And then the third thing that your name gets attached to is what I call your expert insights. And some of you know what expert insights is. This is what we do, is we help people craft and deliver their expert insights. The expert insights is where you are using your own creativity, your own wisdom, your things that you create yourself based on your experience. And what you're doing is you're creating something the world has not seen before. And you're demonstrating a unique understanding of your market from a perspective your market has never seen before. And so that we do a whole lot of work on this. And if you go back and take a look at the other videos that we've posted, and look at our Facebook group, you'll see there's all kinds of information there about expert insights. But that's not what I want to talk about today. What I want to talk about is, how do you expand the business without spending a lot of money on advertising or on promotion? So I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to flip the page. I'm going to come back to this in a moment, because this is laying the foundation of what we're about to talk about. Now, in order for you to really start breaching this gap and working your way over towards a state of V1, there are three things that have to occur. And all three of these things have to happen. Without these things, it's going to be really difficult for you to breach that barrier. And understand that these three things that I'm going to share with you are a very small part of a much bigger process called the perfect sales system. But if you want to execute a sales system, whatever sales strategy or system you use, this concept will help you. But understand, it is a small part of what we call the perfect sales system. So here are the three things that absolutely have to happen. Number one is you need to get or deliver either outstanding results or an outstanding experience for your clients. Now, that sounds pretty obvious, but I want you to think about how you work with your clients. I'm not talking about just getting results and providing an experience. I'm talking about outstanding results. And are you providing an outstanding experience? And if you're not doing those things, then I can't help you, and this video won't help you, because this video is not about how do you provide better results and how do you provide a better experience. But I want you to think about that and understand that this is a fundamental foundational principle for you to crash through those business barriers. Okay, so I want you to think, am I providing outstanding results? Am I providing an outstanding experience for my prospects? So think about that. Now, here's step number two. We need to take these clients for whom you are delivering an outstanding result or an outstanding experience, and hopefully both. We need to take those clients and we need to turn them into what I call raving fans. Now, I'm not just talking about testimonials, although that is part of it. I'm talking about raving fans. I'm talking about clients that you have worked with who go out there and tell the world, who not only give you a nice little testimonial, again, that is part of it, but who talk to people about you, who recommend you, who comment on your stuff on social media, who are actively engaged in your world and who follow you and do the things that you say, and they buy your stuff and they sign up to your stuff and they become part of your circle of influence. Which brings us to the next piece. You need to turn those folks into raving fans. And the third piece is you need to have an ever expanding circle of influence. So, question is, what exactly is a circle of influence? And I find that most people really struggle with how they define a circle of influence. And when I'm in a live audience, I'll ask people, how would you define a circle of influence? And I get answers like, well, it's people I know, people who know me, like me, and trust me. And so I struggled with this for a long time too. I wanted to define my circle of influence because I have, 5,000 connections on Facebook, 10,000 connections on LinkedIn, and thousands of contacts all over the world. And it's just like a big, huge, massive population. But within that big, huge, massive population, there is a subset in there somewhere who are actual prospects for me. There's a subset in there of people who are actually part of my business potential, right? So what I did was I took all of that big, massive population, and I broke it down into two groups. There's my circle of connection and then my circle of influence. And so in order to separate those, I had to provide a definition. So the way that I defined the circle of connection versus the circle of influence, the circle of influence to me is this. It's the population within which I can catalyze action. So I'll repeat that and then I'll explain it. It's the population within which I can catalyze action. So what that means is, out of that big, huge world of all these people, there is a smaller subset of people within there who will do something for their business based on something I do, and then they'll tell somebody about it. So here's what I mean by that. I'm here on this video today, and I'm presenting this to you. And right now, if you don't know who I am, if we've never met, if this is your first time with us, if you're just sort of stumbled across the video here today, at this moment, you may or may not be part of my circle of connection. But you're not part of my circle of influence yet. But let's say you watch the video today and you go out and you do something, anything that is towards furthering your business. You take any one of the concepts that I use, that I share with you today, and you go out and you try it, you implement it, you do something with it. Now I have influenced you. I have catalyzed you into action. Okay, so you are now part of the population within which I can catalyze action. I present this video that causes you to do something, to take action. But that's not the whole way. The rest of the way is you get some kind of a result and now you tell somebody about it, or you comment on this video and others see your comment, or you share something, or you come next time and you tell somebody about it. Now you become an influencer for me. You are somebody who is actually helping me build my business through your own influence. So the circle of influence is somebody who I influence them to take action, and then they influence somebody else. Okay, and that's the way influence works, right? And hopefully you can generate this exponential flow. And that's the ever increasing part. So how do you increase your circle of influence to the point where you can crash through a business barriers without having to spend money on promotion or advertising or marketing? So it works like this. The way most of us increase our circle of influence is this. So this is going to be you right here with a big smile. And you have a circle of influence. There are people in your world right now who will take action based on something you say or do, right? There are those people. And so what we generally do is this. We go to networking events, either virtual or online now, or live. We would go to the BNIs, the chambers of commerce. We go to conferences. We go to conventions. We go to socials. We do all of these different things, and we meet people and we shake hands and we exchange business cards and we chat and we might meet with them and we build a rapport, and all those things happen. And all of that is okay. I'm not saying we shouldn't do those things. We should do those things, and we do those things. But here's the misconception. When I meet you at a network meeting, or I meet you on a Zoom call online, the mistake that I would make, and this is the mistake so many of us make, is I might end up thinking that person is now part of my circle of influence. But you're not. That person is part of your circle of connection, not your circle of influence. So in order to be part of your circle of influence, here's what we want to do. We want to, in addition to these things, we want to look for this person out here. This person out here is what I call an influencer or a key person of influence. Now, here's the way this works. A key person of influence or an influencer is somebody who can expand my circle of influence very quickly, expand my circle of influence in a huge way very quickly. So now then the question is, how do we find out who that person is? So here's the criteria that I use to identify influencers or key persons of influence to help us expand our business around the world. So here are the criteria. If I go all the way back to the Repumeter, when I'm looking for an influencer, or if I'm just out there in the world speaking to people, how do I qualify somebody as an influencer or a key person of influence? The first step is this. There are 3 criteria. This is the first step. Number 1 is they need to be at the branded stage or above on their own Repumeter. So how do I find that out? So what I'll do is I'll go to their social media profiles. I'll look at their Facebook and their LinkedIn and their Instagram and their YouTube channel and all of these things, and I'll Google them. And what I'm looking for is, what are people saying about them? What are they saying about them? Is their entire presence about trying to compete with others? Or do they stand for something? Do they mean something? Do they have a bigger vision, a bigger goal? Have they made a bigger impact? What are people saying? Are they calling them a something or an something? Or are they referring to them as the something? And are people talking about the amazing results, of the incredible experience, or their very unique, powerful ideas? So I want to find out what the world is saying about them. And I just sort of get a gut feeling. And I think, okay, based on what the world is saying and what I'm seeing, it seems to me that this person is above branded on their own Repumeter. So that is qualification number 1 to be an influencer. Now, here's qualification number 2. And I'm going to slow down because this gets a little bit complicated. Qualification number 2. This person needs to have a large, targeted, and complementary circle of influence of their own. So let me repeat that, then I'll explain it. This person who is above branded on their own Repumeter needs to have a large, targeted, and complementary circle of influence on their own. So this person here obviously needs to have a large circle of influence. Okay, so that's simple in concept. It means they influence an enormous number of people. So how do you determine that? How many followers do they have? How many friends do they have? You just, again, you go and you find out what people are saying and how many people are commenting in these things, and you find out in their world, how big how much is their reach, right? And so it's an estimation. But if you're, looking for somebody online, you're looking them up and they have no presence at all, then they may not have a large enough circle of influence in order to be an influencer for you. And so they need to have a large circle of influence. So that's large. That's simple. They need to have a large and targeted circle of influence. Now, what that means is that the people in here, they need what you do. So I'm going to give you an example. We have an influencer here at home in Ottawa who's become a very dear friend over the years, and her name is Peggy. Now, Peggy is one of those gurus that helps people write their book, become bestsellers, and make lots of money. In fact, she was known for quite a long time around the world as the bestseller or the $1 million author maker. So the million dollar or millionaire author maker. So Peggy has a large circle of influence. She's been in business for 30 something years. She has clients and friends and contacts all over the world. So she has a large circle of influence. Her market are authors. So her market are experts and thought leaders and coaches and consultants, and they're experts in something. So that means that her market, the people in her circle of influence, they need what I do. Because I do speaker coaching. I'm an elite speaker coach, and I help people create their ideas, craft their messages so they can bring their concepts and their complicated ideas to the world, right? And I've been doing that for 30 something years. So that's what I do. So Peggy helps them write books. I help them speak. So they need what I do. So it's complementary. Okay. And so that means that what I do, or it's targeted, which means they need what I do. So it's large and it's targeted. And then the third is complementary, which means I can't be competing with this person. So with Peggy, what I do doesn't compete with what she does. If Peggy was a speaker coach, this wouldn't work. If I was teaching people how to write books, this wouldn't work. So her circle of influence is large. It's targeted because what the people in her circle of influence, they need what I do. And it's complementary, which means what I do helps them with what she does. And so here's what happens now. If Peggy introduces me to this one person right here, then that person becomes part of my circle of influence. But here's what Peggy did for us, is Peggy would speak at events. She would hold her own events all over North America. And so the very first time this happened, Peggy invited me to come down and speak at one of her events. So I went down and spoke at one of her events in Florida. And then guess what happens? All of these people now potentially become part of my circle of influence. Now, that means that in order for these people here to become part of my circle of influence, they need to become people who I can cause them to take action and have them tell others, right? So it goes back to this. It goes back to this basic concept right here. I'm getting there, where we need to provide an outstanding result or an outstanding experience. So when Peggy invites me to go down to Florida and speak at her event, I make darn sure that I provide an outstanding experience for that entire group. Now, when I provide an outstanding experience for that entire group, guess who else I provide an outstanding experience for? I provide an outstanding experience for Peggy, and I help her get an outstanding result for her group. So I do this for Peggy, and I do this for her circle of influence. So then what happens is Peggy turns into a raving fan. Why? Because she starts telling everybody else in her circle of influence. And she invites me to speak again. And we start working together, doing some things together. But I go and speak at another one of her events. I speak there. I provide an outstanding experience. She gets an outstanding result. She turns into a raving fan. And now she starts spreading the word through her circle of influence. And that her circle of influence becomes part of mine. And so the way that we've taken our business around the world is by looking for these guys right here, these people, these influencers, key people of influence. And we have them in New Zealand, we have them in the UK, we have them in Australia, we have them in the United States, we have them in Singapore, we have them all over the place because of this concept right here about providing an outstanding result and an outstanding experience, and then not stopping there, and then taking those folks, turning them into raving fans, and then finding those who are influencers based on the criteria. They need to be at the branded stage or above on their Repumeter. They need to have a large, targeted, and complementary circle of influence. And then here's the last piece of this person, and that is they must be willing to advocate for you, which means they need to be willing to share you with their circle of influence. They need to be willing to give the big testimonials, to invite people, to invite you to speak at their events, or to show up, or to connect somehow with their circle of influence. So if you can find this person, an influencer, or a key person of influence who has a large targeted and complementary circle of influence, who is willing to advocate, and who is above the branded stage on their Repumeter. If you find that person and then you provide that person with an outstanding result or an outstanding experience, you turn that person into a raving fan, that is going to increase your circle of influence. When that increases your circle of influence, now you are on your way past the branded stage and on your way over to the one. Now, the way you do all of that, the way it all executes, is with this right here. Without expert insights, without this concept right here, nothing else happens. It all fits together within a big framework called the perfect sales system. Now, what happens is once you start expanding your circle of influence, here's what's next. You need to know, we expand that circle of influence. You need to know how to convert these folks into business. You need to know the process to convert them into actual paying customers. Getting their attention is one thing. Providing an outstanding experience or an outstanding result is one thing. And turning them into raving fans is one thing. Finding an influencer is one thing. But at the end of the day, we're in business to generate revenue. And if you want to crash through that barrier, that revenue barrier, you need to be able to do all of this, but you also need to know how to convert it to business, to actual paying customers. And this is a process that so many of us struggle with. So I have something I want to share with you. We have an event coming up. It's a web-based event that you're going to want to explore for yourself. I want to show it to you right now. And it's on the 30th of this month. And it's called the Perfect Sales System Intensive. It's on the 30th of August, 10 a.m. to noon. A simple 2 hours of intensive training. You can find the information at stevelowell.com/events. But let me give you a snapshot of what we have in store for you. So the Perfect Sales System is where you're going to discover the keys to unlock that perfect sales system and get your business off to the races. And you'll notice that RACES is an acronym. These are the steps to the perfect sales system. And we're going to discover those at this event so that you can start driving sales. So when you take all of this effort to go out there and get great, outstanding results and provide an outstanding experience and increase your circle of influence, you're going to know what's required to turn them into actual business. So this event is for you if sales is a number one priority for you. So at the end of this event, this is what you'll know. You're going to know secret number one. There are 3 secrets. You're going to know secret number one is how to authentically get more people and ethically get more people to want to give you more money instead of giving it to your competitors. And you're going to know how to do it ethically and help you breach that income barrier ethically, authentically, and without having to spend a lot of money on promotion or advertising. Number 2, you're going to be able to copy our entire sales strategy. We're going to show you how you can take what we do and copy it and make it your own, so that after the event, you'll know what steps need to be taken in order to create your own perfect sales system based on our exact system that has taken us around the world. And the 3rd secret is that you'll know how to make money right away, how to increase your cash flow almost immediately, no matter how busy you are with other things. You know, we get a lot of folks who talk about, they say, you know, Steve, well, I'm in a coaching program. I'm writing my book. I'm updating my website. I'm updating all my social media. I'm changing my branding. And they put this information off until later. But here's the thing that we've learned is that all of the branding and the training and the updating and all of those cool things, is it important? Of course it's important. But none of it matters if you cannot convert into sales. And the perfect sales system is about how do you take all of these things, all the tools that we have assembled over a number of years, put them together into what we call now the perfect sales system. How do you do that and turn that into actual revenue? So it's called the Perfect Sales System Intensive. It's $197. It's on August 30th at 10 a.m. until noon Eastern Daylight Time. Now, a couple of ways you can find out more is you can go to stevelowell.com/events, or if you're with us today, just type the word interested in the chat window and one of our team will follow up with you and get all of your questions answered. So folks, this is 2 hours of your life that could be 2 of the most powerful hours that you may ever spend growing your business. Folks, I hope this was of value to you today. If you want to crash through those business barriers without spending a fortune on advertising and marketing, this is a way to do it. So I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you to look through your world and identify somebody who could be for you an influencer or a key person of influence. And once you identify them, here's what you want to do. Number 1, are they at the branded stage or above on their Repumeter? Number 2, do they have a large, targeted, and complementary circle of influence? Number 3, how do you get them to be willing to advocate? And then ask yourself, how can you provide them with an outstanding result or an outstanding experience? How can you turn them into raving fans? And then the last piece, what have you got that is so different from anybody else that it gets their attention? So I hope this was of value. Thanks again for joining us today. We're going to continue to do these because we love doing these. And remember, August 30th is the Perfect Sales System Intensive, 2 hours online, $197. You got to be there. Type interested in the chat window and we'll follow up with you personally, or go to stevelowell.com/events. That's a wrap for today, folks. I'm Steve Lowell. I hope you have a great rest of the week.